Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities Show, weekly edition. I have to say that now because this week we started with an educational series. We got our monthly series, so we're cranking out the content. Hopefully you all are enjoying it. My name's Ben Maldonado, and as always, I'm with my partner, Barrie Hederachi. How are you, Barrie?
Doing pretty well. Rested up. We're doing a Sunday show today because this week, because we were just wiped out on Saturday.
Oh, way wiped out with all that action. Man, oh man, is that the truth? So yeah, Sunday morning, here we are, and something's trading, and it's called Bitcoin. Not trading well for the bulls or the hodlers. I think that's what they call them. It has just been a consistent sort of push down, sideways chop, push down, sideways chop since we made that top. The good news is, if you've been following along, you've seen the levels that are important and what happens when we get stuck below them. You know, we had this level up here off the high. Well, first of all, we got the high in right on the half square.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this level. We lost that level. We knew we were in trouble to here. We got this level, bounced around there for a little while, came down here in the last month or so and tested this level. And now we've lost this level. So as Barrie and I were talking before the show, there's no reason why they're not going to come down and bang it here, at least to the half square. And then Barrie, who's a master at thinking like a criminal in the market, which is a skill that's necessary for survival, you know, why wouldn't they come down and take out these lows and wipe out the stops down here? Until we see it start recapturing significant levels, which would be, you know, a full square or a half square, you know, the pressure is still to the downside.
Right. And where's your that half square? What's the value at the?
It's about 32.9.
32.9. Okay.
33,000. Mm-hmm. The other interesting thing that I wanted to mention is, you know, this cycle that I found in Bitcoin. You know, high to low last cycle was 69 calendar days. You know, 69 calendar days brought us to here. So we're past that time. I'm looking around to see if there's any evidence that a bottom's in place. But listen, price action takes precedent over time count. So, and the price action right now is saying we're still going lower.
You know, Ben, unless we're doing 140 down, which is
yeah,
not unthinkable, right?
No. I mean, if we double this, you know, it puts us out March, April timeframe if we are going to double it. So the key here, again, is watching the levels, you know, trading level to level if you are trading Bitcoin, and just, you know, going with the probabilities. Once we either gain a level or lose a level, know, you know, which direction is more probable.
And, you know, this break was a bad break, man, because if you look at that spike, the first high that the square line goes through in 2021, the full square line, you know, the full square that is
up here,
one below that, right there. Mm-hmm. And look at all that overhead above that, right? So, you know, with all that overhead, we just slipped right under it. Now we have to fight you have to fight your way back above that line. That's not going to be easy, I don't think. So
I'm with you. There's a lot of people that were stuck.
Right.
So we'll see
how that goes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let me throw it over to you and let's dive in, because we got a lot to cover this week after last week's action. There's the ES in all its glory.
Mm-hmm. So, and you're covering the NASDAQ this week, yes?
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we were here last week. So let me just do a 30-second walk back. We talked about two levels last week, and that was the 46.93 and 47.26. And we said, look, we have to be able to at least get above 46.93 to make good. And if we're going to continue higher, we certainly need to clear 47.26 early in the game. Well, we couldn't even get near 46.93. And I think I also mentioned the half square, which is around 46.25, 23, that if we take that level out, that we're going to be in trouble. And well, we found a little trouble, and just, straight down. And so the question now is, what do we do here? I looked at some of the work, and in summary, I would say this 43.35 area is really the next key support. And if we take that out, then I think we're going to probably go and visit at least 42.70, 40, I'm sorry, let's see, 43.35, probably 42.70 to 42.50, which is right around this cluster up here.
Mhm.
And it's right in there, right in that area.
It's interesting your support, because I was looking on the weekly. We have support in like 43.66 area on my square.
Okay, so that's good. And this line is, this area is really interesting. This 40, if you look at it, it's around 40, the full square,
Mhm.
not the full square, the old low.
Right.
And you put the square in there, it's around 40, 42, let's just say 42.65, just to even it up.
Mhm.
And if you go back to the COVID lows, that's going to be below this 270 area. That's where I got that 43.35.
Right.
It's 270 up.
Mhm.
Now, if we can't really hold that, right, and or a little below, so let's just say 42.65, 70,
Mhm.
give it a little bit of room, right,
Mhm.
to come down. If we really can't, ideally we don't want to break through that by much. But if we get down to the 42.70s, then trying to get up above 43.35 area is going to be a little troublesome. And like we always say, if it gets stuck under that, then I think we have more to go.
Yep.
I just can't see how, but hey, these things happen.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
By reading this off, we took a lot of pressure off. Now we're kind of back to this 270. And that's a key area. You can see we spend a lot of time. If you look at the move up, we spend a lot of, other than at this half square, we spend a lot of time in that 270, right? We got
Mhm.
stuck here, came above, came back to retest, messed around. So now
Yeah,
we're
almost
back in that same band.
5-6 months we were in that range.
That's right. So this 43.35 is going to be the key level to watch next week to see if we can sort of manage to, a small excursion might be okay, but, manage to see if we can stay above that, or if we're going to, get stuck below that. I think that's the key balance point for next week. And let that be the guide, so to speak. It's, and if you go to the high here, you can see that 35 is about 2/3 of the square down, right?
Mhm.
Up from the high. So this area has been playing on this 1/3, 2/3, 60-degree, 30-degree square pretty well. It's vibrating into that. So this, again, it just shows like it's a nice area to find support. So the danger is if we don't, then we can
Right.
go, then we're open to the full 90, which will take us down to, basically, let's be nice and say 41 area.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's what I'm seeing for the S&P. That said, hey, if we take out the half square to the upside, which is around 44.40, let's say we clear 44.50 to the upside, then I think we can probably go back and do a counter trend and see where we find resistance. And
It'd be a nice tradable bounce, basically.
it should be a tradable bounce. And, that 4,600 is the next level to really go and check if we just go by the levels that we've got in place
Mhm.
already.
Mhm.
All right, let's take a look at the weekly.
Boy, that weekly bar was good, wasn't it? Look at that.
I'll tell you what. So I don't know, if people have been following us, it's great. Otherwise, go back and check the old videos. We talked about this. We're up 3 squares, square 52, and we talked about how important this is if we can hold above or not. And if it doesn't, we're probably just gonna, turn into some kind of a correction, which is pretty much what it did. Exactly, right?
Absolutely.
It's like we were. So these squares work out if you just read them. And, well, reading a little bit more into it, if we take the half square, which did hold this counter trend on the way up,
Mm-hmm.
it's around 42.60.
Mm-hmm.
So if we lose that other level we talked about earlier, this 42.50 to 42.60 is really the weekly level to watch. And that's all I have to say about that.
Yep. That's all that needs to be said. The picture says it all.
Yeah, that rest we have to wait and see. So here's that 90 cycle that we caught in time. We saw that coming in. All right, let's look at the bonds.
Interesting reversal near the end of the week in bonds.
Yeah, interesting reversal. I'm still not sold if it's a low or well, you know, we did 216, I think,
Mm-hmm.
from low to low. So bonds really go with the 72 cycle. And so we have this
There it is.
You know,
Yeah.
216. You know, something to watch. It's possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were close to 144 here. We got to bounce off of that. So it's possible we have something there. But for now, I would say the proof will be to really be able to clear this 157.16 to 158, this level here, right? And that was a support earlier, and we just sliced right through it. Now that would be the key resistance level that we're going to be watching.
And a failure there would be a hell of a short setup, wouldn't it?
Failure there would be a hell of a short setup. That's right. I would certainly say that. Might not even get there. So you really have to watch that, you know? Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's all it is. I'm not sure if it's done yet. So I think this level would tell us which way it's going. And looking at the weekly bonds, again, you know, we broke this, you know, big old triangle, broke the trend line, been down for 3 weeks. So I'm not quite sure if we're done yet. You know, we you know, came down to the old lows here on a weekly basis. Are we really going to make it that easy, make a double bottom, you know?
Right.
So yeah, it's possible that we go lower. So we're watching the counter trend on a daily basis. Let's take a look at crude. So if you guys have been following, we've been bullish as far as I can remember. And lastly, we talked about 82 being holding, and then 84 being the half square. If we can really clear that, you know, that opens up the square to the upside. Well, we didn't quite, you know, we looked like we were clearing it. Then Friday, we kind of buckled up a little bit. So I would say 82, watch the 82 level to be key support, and the half square, which would be, let's say, 84, to really clear and hold above, which would also mean it's holding above the old highs. And if we don't hold above it, then we'll probably, you know, expect another some kind of a correction. But for now, the key thing to watch is 82 for key support. And, you know, holding above 84 would probably clear our way to 90 for now. So watch those levels there. And looking at the weekly crude, again, the reason this is important, you know, we're up square and a half on a weekly square, which is square 52. And, well, we're right there, right? I mean, it's possible we have a weekly false break in place. So you really have to watch that. And the only way we know how to watch it is watching how the price action moves through the levels. And speaking of price action and levels, you know, you guys can watch we did a little educational video on how we look at price when it comes to squares and timing. Maybe you can take a look at that, like Ben mentioned earlier.
That 84 is so key in crude right now.
Yeah, it's a key level to either clear or not. Mainly, you know, because of this, you know, especially since we squared out on the last one. So this is really a little tricky, because since we squared out, it's possible we do a false break here. So that's in the back of the mind, right? And on the other side, if we clear it, well, it clears up an entire square. So I think it's,
that's why, it's super key.
Yeah. So I think it's okay to be a little patient here, to watch the price action, see which way we start to move. And then, you know,
And sentiment too, Barry, with everybody and their dog now calling for $100 oil. If we do false break, it should be a hell of a move out of there.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. So those are the two levels to watch, and at least that's what we'll be watching. So that's that. Here's our friend gold. Well, we've been bullish, but geez, has it been? It's
Painfully bullish.
like a dead bull. So hey, look, we're making the way, right? Stair stepping through. We had this box drawn in. We talked about it last week. We got on top of the box, managed to kind of hang above, and we cleared the 1832 level that we've been talking about. Not only clear it, but as of Friday, we kind of managed to hold above it. So that's what we mean by holding above it, right? We break, and whatever pullback is holding. Now, if on Monday we're back in this, below this 1832, then we have to reset the whole cycle and wait for it to clear 1832 again. But if we don't, it's going to gain some momentum, and if we end up clearing this 1853 area, which is a half square, then then we open up to at least 2000. Anything to add there, Ben?
No, just that 1835 is key. Closing the week over that is very positive and bullish, and we got to watch the price action this week. If we can hold that level, it should embolden the bulls to push us, as you said, towards 2000, at least 1925 short term, and then 2000 is the next level.
Right. So here's the weekly gold. Again, we've been talking about this huge sort of compression triangle going on for a while, and we've been watching the price action every week, and you can see we're making higher lows. And last week, again, we pushed higher. And well, what can we do? We'll wait and watch the daily levels and see if the buyers keep coming in. And
the other key thing, Barry, with gold as well as silver and copper and in other markets is that we had a major cycle change last week, and gold and silver and copper all took off.
Perked up, yeah.
When the cycle came, after having been, frustrating and chopping around, they started, giving sort of directional type moves. So we're watching that too, to see, if that is in fact the effect of the cycle, maybe we are going to break out in gold and silver.
Yeah. Well, so far it's looking good. We're covering the numbers step by step. It's a little slow, but we're doing it, right? I mean, just think, December we were down here.
Yeah.
Support, 1765. Look at that. Slowly came up, higher highs, higher lows, and that's the trend, right? It's a sloppy trend, but it's the trend. And
everybody's been conditioned because of what it's done for the last 18 months. I posted something on gold and silver during the week when I put out a tweet, and the questions were all like, is it just going to pull back again? Is it just going to pull back again? Nobody's believing the breakout, which is, when the market likes to move. So everything's in place. Let's see if it happens.
December, we've been making higher highs, higher lows. So there's no debate there. We are moving higher, right?
Right. But if you look at the last few times we made these moves higher, then they just retraced. They pulled back and retraced. And
well, that's how markets move, right? You tell them that.
Yeah. So anyway,
you're talking about back here. You're talking about
back here. Yeah.
Okay.
I think people are frustrated, and that, like I said, when you get to maximum frustration with a market, that's when it generally will make its move to just fool everybody.
And and to that point, you can't get all emotional with the markets, right? You have to watch the technical side, and you can see here technically it's just acting like a sort of a little bit of a sloppy bull market. So it's all right. It's going the right way. And lastly, we'll look at the dollar. We squared out up here. We hit some resistance, rolled over to the half square, and we broke the half square and this trend line about the same time. And I thought that we probably had some follow through. The way to know if it's going to reverse would be the half square, like we always talk about. So last week we said, if we can clear 95 and get through, then we're probably going to continue higher. So that's pretty much what happened. A couple of days in, we didn't really follow through to the downside. We cleared the half square, So again, you guys, this is what we mean when we say clear the square line level, right? Look at this, came down, got under it. So Ben, look at this. It didn't get stuck under it, right?
Mm-mm.
Next day, it reversed right back up, got on top of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? One day, next day up, on top of it, top. Okay.
That's why, like you say, it takes patience when we come towards these lines, because you really have to see if it can clear.
Exactly. And the fact that it didn't go any lower, it really held super tight up to, basically the support was this high back on November 5th. It's still got some juice left in it, right? This is a little bullish. So it's in there. So we're watching 95 being the key level now for the balance. And looking at the weekly, like I always do. Probably the reason for the bounce was that we were pretty much on the half square on the weekly. So weekly is interesting, right? We squared out here 45 by 60. We had the fork working perfectly, and we're starting to come down. So we have to see what happens if we get squeezed into this. We're going to break out to the upside and go higher, or if we can't hold 95, we're probably going to just roll over. So it's kind of we've been in a bull market weekly basis. So here's a correction, right? We had one here, correction, counter trend. So now we have to see if this is a counter trend or if it's really actually kind of a major high because of the square.
And so far, that structure is bullish on the pullback because it's sitting on top of those other highs.
And it's sitting on top of the square, half square. So it's bullish. What I wanted to say was we didn't have any squares on these other highs. So we've been bullish since these double lows came in. And since we did square out up here, now we have to be a little bit cautious and see, because this is where he gets a little woozy and start not being so clear, right? So we want to just...
in other words, lower probability right now on a direction.
A lower probability, but we can find the buoyancy by watching these levels. So half square on the daily is a good point. So the 95 area is a good level to watch. And if we break this trend line again, I would say it's definitely showing some signs of weakness coming up ahead of time, right? For now, it's okay. It's hanging in there.
Sure.
Let's go back and look at the euro.
Back in the range.
Let me just extend this box. So we saw it break out of this consolidation. We went up. I was expecting it to test at least the old square, which was all the overhead along the line. Didn't even get to that. So again, dollar looked a little stronger. Euro is looking a little weaker than it should be, right? It couldn't even get up to the square. So looks like it's going to be range bound, or maybe even go lower in the range. But the key level to watch here would be this 1/4 of the square, which would be 138.30. So I think anytime we clear that, we can expect it to go higher and test the full square down from the high. Otherwise, it's not much going on, right? I'm kind of watching the higher lows, just like the dollar made it high and making lower highs. It's the mirror of it. So for now, not anything that exciting, I guess. And the weekly euro, last week we did come and tap the half square on the weekly. So I would expect, it's normal for it to pull back. So we have to see if we're going to go back and challenge it again, and if we go back again and we take this out, there's a good chance we go up to these old lows and test these. But for now, we can't even get up near that. I think probably going to be range bound here for a little while. Just like we did up here. And that's all I got. That's my
excellent,
my take. And you got the commodities coming up, so
let's run through some commodities. But before we jump into the commodities, let's take a look at the NQs, man. That's where the action's been. We've been talking about this level for months up here. And we said, it's having trouble. It's having trouble with this, 16.4 area. That's not good.
And we talked about distribution, right? Remember that?
About distribution. And the other thing that I remember vividly saying, and we discussed, was the ES made a higher high. NQ couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
It made a lower high, and then this happened. So we can't say we didn't see it coming. We didn't talk about it. Now the question is, where are we going from here? What do the odds say? What do the squares say to us? Well, on Friday, we lost the half square at around 14.6. So the next spot, looking at it on a daily basis, is around 14,000. So it's another 300-400 points from here. And you can see that will pick up the highs from, April, May of 2021 and the early February of 2021. So is it possible that we go down to there? Yeah. Could we be bottoming here? Yeah, that's also possible. And for that, let's take a look at the weekly. This is a weekly square. You see it caught this is one of the static squares that I use. Barrie uses more dynamic squares, but this is a static square that was set, ways back. It caught the COVID low, caught this congestion, sort of the first congestion off of that low on a weekly basis. Caught this next move higher at the half square, supported the full square, and now here we're rolling over again. Knowing how the markets work and how they like to sort of slap around the little guy and slap around people who put their stops in obvious places, I would guess they're going to bust this low here to grab the stops that are there. Could we see, full eighth square move? That's not unusual. You can see markets do it all the time. They'll go, they'll break the full square by an eighth, find support or resistance, and then move back over. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough, if we do that there, it's around 14,000. Where's the full square on NASDAQ on the daily? Around 14,000.
Yep.
So wouldn't be surprised if that happened. I don't know what else you want to add on the NQs, Barrie, but that's kind of my take, is that we're in the last stages of this pullback. Could it, plunge one more time and hit that 14,000? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance of that. Otherwise, you got the half square there. What's the value on the half square?
The half square here is around 14,587. So
let's say 14.5, right? So if we can, on the shorter time frames, if we can get about 14.5 and pullbacks hold above that, we can say, well, it's probably in place, at least for the short term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's on our radar. We're watching both for ES and NQs to see if we get the bottoming signals. We're in with what we think is the latter stages of this decline. So there's some sort of bottoming process going on, but we're just waiting to see the technical signs so that we can have probabilities in our favor. One of the groups that we've talked about, and one of the commodities we've talked about a lot over the last few months, is wheat and the grains. And the grains are still very bullish. I'm very bullish on the grains, and I wanted to highlight wheat as well as the others. But let's talk about wheat and what happened this week. We had been correcting in wheat since the November highs. A nice correction. An ABC would have taken us, down to around this 700 level. But then last week, interestingly enough, when the cycle came in, we saw a sharp move higher in wheat, and we got back above this full square when we had closed below the previous week. We had gotten below and probed below, but we got back above this full square easily. That full square is around 77.50. We got back above it. We broke the downtrend line, and now we're pulling back, from the half square. We're watching this pullback here to see if we can get a higher low. If it, on a lower time frame, maybe a 4-hour or 60-minute, can give us, some nice signals here. You have a good trade and a good potential move higher in wheat, knowing where your risk is, a close below that 750 level would not be bullish. So wheat looks good. All right, let's go check out the next grain, which is corn. Here's corn. As you can see, we've been on corn since it was making its lows here in September and October. We've gotten a bullish move where we're seeing a series of higher lows, higher highs. And the other key thing to notice here is notice how it's been capturing these levels, these important levels. Captured this full square here, stayed on top of the half square here and took off. And now it was testing this full square quite some time, for over a month.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've started the next move up. Again, the cycle change came in this time frame, and look at the move we're starting to see out of here.
And if somebody had the trend line duplicated, you saw the breakout coming in real time.
Yeah, this big one from the downtrend line. So corn is moving. It's looking good. I think we're, obviously the next stop is the half square at 625. And then I think we're destined to attack this full square around 660. So corn looks good. Let's go to the last grain now. Check that one out. Here we have beans. Beans has been a stellar performer off of the lows. Again, we were tracking it in here, looking for a low. We had a false break on support. The half square held, moved up, stayed on top of the full square. Notice how this happens, right? We went up, pulled back, we lost it, but then it gets right back above it. And then in here, it actually sits on top of it, right? And this is the setup that you want. Sits on top. It tells you the support is strong, and then we can launch higher. And look at the move out of here. Just a beautiful move. Broke the downtrend line, shot up. Again, came up to the next full square, struggled a little bit for a couple days, got up on top, failed at the half square here, but look at where support was found again, on top of the full square.
Yep.
So this beans, I'm looking for a target here. The near-term target is the top of the square, which is in the 1465 area. But beans do look good. Another group that responded very positively to the cycles and technically looks good are the metals. Barry's talked about gold. I'm gonna run through gold, silver, copper now. Here's gold. What we've seen since the low, and look at this sideways that we've been in, right? Really frustrating bulls, really frustrating the bears, just going nowhere. The only people who weren't frustrated, Barry, were the option writers.
Exactly.
They collected lots of premium in here. Anyway, the recent move we've seen up, we've been trading in this half square for a long time, with little deviations up and down, but basically been stuck in this half square. Well, what happened late last week is we shot up, got on top of the square, which is in the 1835 area. And Friday they tried to pull back into it, but we closed essentially right on top of the square. So price action, tonight, which is Sunday, and Monday, Tuesday is going to be really important to see if we can kind of maintain this level, stay on top of it. If we do, it opens up the half square, which is 1925. And as Barry mentioned, the full square, which is 2000. So gold looks really good. The weekly close on top of that square was really, really important. Let's see if we get follow through this week. Gold's little brother, kid brother, cousin, whatever you want to call it, is silver. And silver is actually leading the way here. It's been showing relative strength versus even gold this week. But the price action has been something we haven't seen for a while, which is, you see how small these bars were and how tight most of these bars were. Here, cycle change this week. We get 3 sharp moves higher and then an inside day on Friday. The key being we captured this level here, which is around 23 and a quarter. As long as we stay above that, we should be testing this half square in the 25 area. And that's the next battle. If we can get above it, sit on top of 25, the full square becomes a real possibility, which is about 26.75 area, 2680. I really like the price action and the way the commodity, both gold and silver, started moving once the cycle changed and the breakouts of these levels. They are looking really, really bullish in my work. What are your thoughts on silver?
I feel the same. I think the breakout was clean. It wasn't some kind of a choppy mess. It was a clean break, and I think the trend is up as long as we can keep making higher highs and higher lows. Those targets look good. Yeah, let's just go with it.
Absolutely. Ride the silver train. One that I wanted to talk about, which is still in a major big triangle, but is showing really bullish setup right now, is copper. Here you can see the triangle drawn out. We've been, since August of last year, putting in a bunch of higher lows. The most recent set, which came on top of a square here at 433 area. And this is what got my attention. We came up through the square, and unlike this mess here where we just kept chopping back and forth between it, we sat on top of it. 3 times they tested it, 1, 2, 3. We made a move up to the half square, pulled back, cycle change came in. We get this strong move higher. So I'm watching copper, this level here. And by the way, all these levels are in a spreadsheet that we have up on Google Docs, and we'll post the link to it when we post the video. But you can go there, check the levels, and watch for updates. But if we can get through and sit on top of this 457 area, I don't know if this is going to be the move that breaks us out of this triangle, but it'll certainly take us up near this full square, which would be a heck of a trade in copper, up to around the 478, 480 area. So I'm watching copper this week. I'm not interested in it if we can't get above this half square, because then we're probably going to have to come back and chop around and test this full square again. That could be a spot to buy if we pull back and hold. But at this point, you want to wait until you see the breakout and then buy on a hold, because then you got a good risk reward ratio. Buying in here, if you have to hold all the way down to here, it's not so favorable.
Right. But structure wise, it's holding above the square, and it held above the square, ran up to the half, higher low, ran up to so it's starting to perk up a little bit. So we have to watch it here.
And the thing I like, just like the grains, all 3 of these metals, gold, silver, copper, have responded at that cycle change. All 3 of the grains, wheat, corn, soybeans that we follow, responded at that cycle change. So there's movement and money's coming into them at the proper time. So it's up to us to pay attention and see if we can find a good risk reward setup. With that, let's go to the next one. Nat gas. Spoke about this last week and the setup that was coming. We had this big move higher off of this false break low from this correction. We said, okay, we got to watch the next pullback and see what it does, because that's going to determine whether or not we have an attractive sort of risk reward setup for a potential, as you can see here, 1, 2, potential third wave move. Even if it's an ABC, it's still taking us way up here. But what did we have? We had a sharp pullback into the full square. 2 days tested it, tried to see if it could get below and push below. We had a weekly close right here above the square. So in my work and in our work and how we look at these squares, as long as we're above this full square, we've cleared it, we've held it, and the next move should be minimally to the half square, which is around 450. And if we can get through that and hold it, you're looking at the full square up around 510. So gas is showing signs of life. Obviously, the key here is to see if we can stay above this full square here at 390. Watching closely, hopefully be able to catch if this thing does hold and the setup's there. not just an ABC up, but a full third wave up would be a heck of a move in gas. What are your thoughts on gas, Barry?
Yeah, I think it's a little dicey here, but I think if we can hold the square, there's a chance to shoot up and test that full. It's in that bracket anyway. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So the risk reward's there if you buy near the square. Let's see what price action does starting tonight, if we can get more clues as to what it wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Last one I want to cover is sugar. Sugar's been interesting because a lot like gold and silver, we've had months and months of sideways here. Recently, the sideways turned into sort of a bear raid here where it pushed down pretty hard. We did a nice ABC down into that level.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it in so you can see it. As you can see, ABC right down into the low here. Stayed above the half square and this whole structure over here. And this week, with the cycle change, we pushed up above the full square and are now starting a pullback. And I'm really interested to see if this pullback can sit on top of this full square at 1850. If we can hold this 1850 level, and you can see how important 1850 has been. It's been tested multiple times here from above, below, not quite, but close, up into the below area. So this 1850 is a really key balance point. If we can hold the full square here on the pullback and the setup is favorable, I got to believe we're going to go up and test this full square again.
Right. Or more.
or potentially more, right? This could be one big consolidation. They did a clean out to take care of all these stops here, and now they're ready to put the next leg up. So that's possible, right? You get in it looking at what's the risk reward, is it favorable, and then we'll take it level from level for there. And that's how you catch, the monster moves in these commodities, is you get in looking for a move where the risk reward is favorable and it morphs into one of these big moves. And the environment that we're in now, the volatility that we're seeing, means that these kind of big moves are possible. And so it's a matter of getting in with a favorable risk reward when the levels and the probabilities tell you have a chance for success. That's all I've got to review today. The charts, I think the metals are really looking bullish. I think the grains are looking bullish. And then these other two that I highlighted, nat gas and sugar, are just sort of special situations where the setup's there for a possible, fast move higher on both. Mm-hmm. Which again is in line with if you looked at the monthly video, it's supported. The reason why I like them is it's supported by that bigger picture monthly chart.
Right.
Anything else to add, Barry?
No, I think that's a good coverage. Next week, well, we got everything's moving, so we got to be fully alert. We got to watching the bonds, see if we're going to go higher or turn or not, and of course, NASDAQ and the S&P.
Absolutely. Enjoy the volatility, people. It's when you don't have it, you lament it. So when you have it, use your levels, stay calm, use your levels, and trade in the direction of the trend when you got a good risk reward setup. That's the best thing you can do for yourself and your account. Anyway, have a good week, and we'll talk to you on Twitter and next week when we get the next set of videos out.
All right.
Take care, Barry.
Thanks, Ben. Take care.
Right. Bye-bye.